So, when it comes to clearing and ridding entity attachments, it's essentially a process of cutting the spiritual cord between you and an entity and closing the door between you and that entity in order to ultimately reduce the level of access it has to you and the level of influence that it has over you. Hello, beautiful people. It is Oshun Kimi, your sage, your guru, your mystic, and your spiritual informant. And today I'm coming to you with part 3 of this larger conversation we've been having on entity attachments. And if you're new here, I'll be posting the links to part 1 and 2 in the description box of this video so that you can better follow along with the conversation that we're having today. So, entity attachments manifest at various levels and affect us based on the levels or layers that they have manifested in. So they manifest on the astral level, which is related to the astral body. They will manifest on an emotional level, which is going to be related to the emotions and the emotional plane. And they can be manifested deep in the subconscious, deep inside of us, and deep inside of our DNA. So the ways that these entities can attach to us and manifest into our reality is numerous because we are very complex beings and the nature of our existence is so complex spiritually and cosmically. So since entities can manifest on so many levels and in so many ways, the process of ridding entity attachments actually require us to address the various levels and planes that these entities have attached to us on or through. So for instance, when we take a spiritual bath, which is going to be a very good way to cleanse the effects of entity attachments, we are essentially dealing with the attachment at the auric level. Because when we have negative entity attachments, or we have astral or auric parasites, then their darkness can literally cloud and fog our aura, causing things like depression and a false sense of disconnection and unprotection from the divine source and from our spirit team. So spiritual baths with the right herbs can cleanse the effects of entity attachments. And when I am talking about spiritual baths, this is including head washes as well, because entity attachments can psychically attack a person. So a proper spiritual head wash can also remedy psychic attacks. And so there are various categories of spiritual baths. One for banishing, which is also known as a removal bath. And then there's a category for drawing positive energies to us, like prosperity and protection. And this is going to be known as your attraction bath. So we have to know which bath to use for what particular types of situations. When it comes to banishing baths, herbs that will typically be used include hyssop, rue, agrimony, peppermint, and tulsi, aka holy basil. And of course, feel free to drop any herbs that you like to use in the comments so that people who are watching this video can have some more ideas and inspiration for their spiritual baths. You can amplify your spiritual baths by adding in salt and your spiritual colognes like Florida water, but a proper spiritual bath contains herbs. Washing with salts and colognes alone is not going to be viable. There was a time where I was offering pre-made spiritual baths on the Etsy, which comes with full instructions on how to prepare them and things like that. Spirit has been on my case about offering these baths again. So spiritual baths are now available again on the Etsy shop. So our spiritual cleansing, like baths and smudging and head washes, is going to cleanse and prevent our auras of being too weighed down by entity attachments. But there are higher and deeper levels of closing doors that needs to happen as well. So in cases where the entity attachment is a familiar spirit, meaning that you inherited this spirit through your bloodline, this is going to require a healing of generational habits and tendencies that have been causing spiritual rot that has been allowing the entity to attach to you. So when our lineage has been operating for generations in ways that has led to disease, either mental or physical, that has led to family dysfunction, and that has led to things like generational poverty and substance abuse habits, these habits or ways of being have to be confronted in order to close the blood opening that the entity may have to you. So yes, I recommend things like getting entity attachment removals. If you can find a qualified practitioner like a Mambo, an Ialosa, a Babalawo, or Palero to clean you up. But there must also still be spiritual work done on your own behalf to actually keep the door closed once the entity has been removed. Because unfortunately, an entity that has been attached to our families for generations is not going to just want to up and leave. That's usually when the spiritual attacks really amp up. Once an entity notices that you are trying to get rid of it, that you are trying to change your habits, you're trying to spiritually grow and evolve, then they will recognize the potential of losing access to you, and their attacks on you are going to ramp up. So when we are confronting and changing generational vices, addictions, bad habits, bad tempers, bad emotional patterns, all of that helps to free us from entity attachments and influences by closing the energetic door that that entity has to us, because our emotions, our thoughts, and our behaviors create portals. And this portal can either be good or bad depending on how you behave, how you think, how you speak, how you feel. So another way to close doors to entity attachments is through meditation, vision questing, astral traveling, and the balancing of our nervous and emotional systems. So I often do guided meditations for members of the Patreon to help close energy portals and recalibrate the energy body. I also offer private energy healing sessions for this matter as well. And in terms of free options, I am sure that there are plenty of content creators who offer guided meditations. If you want to go this route of doing guided meditations on your own or through YouTube, then I would suggest focusing on meditations that deal with past life healing, inner child healing, and the healing of ancestral karma or ancestral debts. And when it comes to astral traveling and vision questing, I've talked a few times in previous videos about giving the soul a mission and a directive when going to sleep, because sleep is for the body and not necessarily for the spirit. So learning to practice lucid dreaming is going to be very helpful for you. You can read more about how to do it. You can watch videos on how people do it. And if you know how to do it naturally, then learn to just practice it with intention in order to gain the power to actually close doors and portals in the dream state, which is where it really matters. So essentially, entity attachments have to be dealt with from all angles because they are parasitic spirits. They want to, and it is within their nature to, feed off the life force. So they will fight to stay within our energy. So doing a combination of things and remedies is going to be best, in addition to your spiritual baths, the head washing, the vision questing, the meditation. Of course, I'd also recommend heavy prayer and regular fasting, even if it's just intermittent fasting, or having at least one day a week of fasting is going to be very helpful in clearing out the influence of entity attachments and in clearing out aura buildup. So the fasting process should have a focus on spiritual clearing, because everything that we eat and consume in any way, so watching and listening to as well, leaves its mark on the aura, the energy body, and the inner body. So fasting is to unclog, cleanse, and reset our system, both inside and beyond, into the ethers and the aura. So pairing your fasting with colon cleanses and gut cleanses is going to be essential for dealing with entity attachments that have manifested in the inner body. I've already talked so much in videos about how entities can and will take root in the body, especially in the guts, in the intestine, and for women in the womb. And also, they can also manifest in certain major organs like the liver. So, for people who are spiritually adept, fasting is just a non negotiable. It needs to be done seasonally at least. Anytime the seasons change, anytime the month changes, go on a fast of some sort. I'm going to close this conversation about entity attachments with this. If you cannot find a trustworthy practitioner of ATRs, of African traditional religions, this is going to be your Mambos, your Paleros, your Ialosas, your priestesses, etc. Then you can simply search for people like Reiki healers, sound bath healers, because these types of spiritual practices like Reiki and sound healing can also clear out entity attachments. And since people always ask, I like to state explicitly that no, I do not have a spiritual practitioner that I'd recommend when it comes to African traditional religions. Not because there is not one that exists, but because I simply have not found one that I fully trust to recommend to someone else. Because if you know my story, it was my own godparent and a spiritual practitioner of an ATR who was responsible for hexing me for the entirety of the time that they were supposed to be teaching me. So, with that being said, if you need a personalized game plan for dealing with an entity attachment in your life or to figure out if you indeed have one, I invite you to schedule a one-on-one reading with me. I'm also offering energy healing sessions and spiritual baths on the Etsy. And on the Patreon, we're always up to good things over there: energy healing, studying mysticism, doing shadow work, practicing magic, and all of those lovely things. So there will be a link to readings and the Patreon in the pinned comments below. I pray sovereignty and enlightenment over every viewer of this video. Ashe.